the tools of the day, you know how when you watch movies about airline disasters, right? And they have this cockpit voice recorder and it overwrites itself in an hour. So if the problem happened 2 hours ago, you don't know what. Well, imagine a cockpit voice recorder that only records the last 5 seconds of a crash. It's almost useless. Well, our equipment was the equivalent of 5 seconds, 5 seconds of voice. We could only store 100 microseconds on our analyzer, and we ran into a problem where this would happen. The Commodore in Commodore 64 mode suddenly it'd barf, right? And we're on like the Rev 6 of the board now, and CES is 2 months away, and the memory's getting corrupted in the past, and then the processor comes along and stumbles over it and falls. Well, triggering on the processor stumbling and falling didn't tell you what happened in the past. So I'm sitting there, how can I figure this out? What I noticed is every time, not every time, but most times when it would barf, that @ sign would appear at that one spot on the screen. I'm like, all right. So I got my Commodore brand light pin out, plugged it in, and I plugged it in. See that thing on the bottom, the 7D01? That's a logic analyzer. You actually use toggle switches. I mean, it's like you can have one word to trigger on, and that was it. Imagine toggle switches, high, low, or don't care. But I ran that light pin to that, and he triggered the 7D02. These, by the way, slid into Tektronix oscilloscopes. They didn't even have their own screens. And I put my light pin up to the screen, and this is the light pin, by the way. This is like 35-year-old light pin. How many of you, my light pin's older than how many of you? Anybody here less than 34? My light pin's older than you. So I put it up there, and it did. I caught the error, right? And the error actually relates to what we've been talking about all week long here. It feels like a week. What was happening is when you went, the address line going to the DRAMs, when you went from 000 to 1110, it became 1111. And it was ground bounce. I mean, in the actual case, lifting the pin when it tried to make all these ones, everything else became a 1. And we traced it to a piece of trace this long, right? It went right and it went down. So we made another piece of trace at a diagonal, and it stopped barfing all over the screen. So I was able to fix that one with a light pin because the screen would refresh in enough time that I could catch it on the analyzer. So, I mean, here we are. Remember, they're hand laying out chips and stuff, and this is how we were troubleshooting stuff. Meanwhile, CES is 2 months away. So that's the light pin story.